Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS Informed. Today we're going to learn about another candidate running for office in Dubois County. And joining us in the studio is Tom Kleinhelter. Tom is running for the office of Dubois County Sheriff. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, we're glad to have you here. I think the first thing we do with all candidates is find out a little bit about them. Tell us about who Tom Kleinhelter is.
Okay. My name is Tom Kleinhelter. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for almost 25 years. I was born and raised in Celestine. Graduated from Northeast Dubois High School back in 1987. My parents are Bill and Betty. I have three sisters, Annette Jones, Heather Twiskey, and Ashley Schwenk, and one brother, Terry. I married Angie Block from Jasper. Been married for almost 26 years, and I have two children, Taylor, who's 22, and Reese, who is 19.
Now, you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but what would be your qualifications, or what would you bring to the sheriff's office? You mentioned you've been a deputy for a long time.
I have. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for almost 25 years. I've been with on the deputy side for a little over 20 years now. I started in the jail in 1994. I was a jail officer. About a year after I became a jail officer, I was promoted to chief jailer. So I stayed in the jail for almost 5 years. When I took the position of deputy. Went through the interview process, testing process, became a deputy sheriff in 1998. Stayed with as a deputy for a good while, 9 years I think it was, till the role of sergeant became open. I tested, applied for that, interviewed, and became a sergeant. I was a patrol sergeant for several years until the title of detective sergeant came open, the position. I tested for that, interviewed for that, and was given the detective sergeant position, and that's where I am currently. The detective sergeant position is the third highest position in the Sheriff's Department, and it is the highest position that you can acquire without being elected or appointed by the sheriff.
What would you bring to the sheriff's office?
I think I would bring the ability to manage people. Prior to the Sheriff's Department, I worked at Aristocraft at Decorah, and I was going to school full-time or part-time at VUJC, working full-time at Decorah. After about a year or so at Decorah, I became supervisor there, and I was over the shipping and production departments as a supervisor. So I think I have the ability to know how to manage people. And that's one of the key things that I think I would bring to the Sheriff's Department. And the ability to manage the people, I think, would help the Sheriff's Department be able to utilize their manpower in a more efficient way, so that I don't believe I would have to go to the county council and ask for help all the time. I think we lack in how we manage our people.
Now, why do you want to run for office?
Well, if somebody would ask me why I wanted to run for the office of sheriff, probably 10 years ago, I would have told you I don't. But about 2 years ago, not quite, I think it was, I had a couple people within the department approach me and ask me about running for sheriff. And I immediately said no, but yet I gave it a little bit of thought. I went home and I told my wife about it, and we kind of just laughed about it, and that was kind of the end of it. I thought about it every once in a while, but nothing serious. Fast forward a couple of months, and I was approached by a member of the Republican Party who asked me about running for sheriff, if I had given that some thought. At that time, I didn't just immediately say no. I told him that I would think about it, and I would pray about it. And I remember going home and telling my wife that this person asked me about running for sheriff, and I think at that point in time we became a little more serious about it and said, okay, we should really think about this and pray about it and see what happens. Not even 2 weeks later, I was approached by a gentleman with the Democratic Party who asked me about running for sheriff. And I remember going home and telling my wife that had happened. And I might be a slow learner sometime, but we took that as a sign from God that we need to do this. And here I am. I think that's something that I believe wholeheartedly that God has told me to do this. And it's kind of funny, after that had happened, you see so many other things that come around. And I was going over some of what I just told you about being a supervisor at Decorah, the leadership that I've had, at the Sheriff's Department. Over half of my career there, I've been in some type of supervisor or leadership roles. And I was telling that to a gentleman not too long ago, and he said, well, it sounds like you've been running for sheriff all your life, you just didn't know it. And I guess there may be a little truth into that. But I think I've always been the type of person that I want to better myself, and I believe that I can bring a lot to the Sheriff's Department and to the office of sheriff.
Now, what are issues, concerns, some things that maybe the county's going to have to be dealing with, or the Sheriff's Department's going to deal with, or maybe drug use, or is there any kind of violence or things that people need to be aware that in the next 4 years we're going to have to address?
Well, I think the Sheriff's Department needs to become more of a proactive agency. We need to get out in the community and be more proactive in what we do. And again, I think that has to go with the ability to manage your people. Obviously, the key one right now is the overcrowding in the jail. And I think we're going to be faced with an issue of, well, there is a committee right now going on about how we're going to address the overcrowding, whether it's building a jail, building a judicial complex. We're not sure yet. We'll get there. But I think one of the biggest keys of we can build a jail and we're going to fill the jail. Eventually it will be full. We have to be able to do something with our substance abuse problem that we have. And the jail, we can get you dry. We can clean you up in jail. We can get your addiction to stop. It's where you go after jail that's a key. And that's something I think we need to get together as a community. Leaders in the community, the public needs to get involved with this and find out how we can take that person who's just being released from jail, whether they've served a sentence or whatever the case may be. And right now we just send them right back out into the world, and they usually end up back where they came from. And they may stay sober and clean for a while, but eventually they have a bad day and you don't want to see them end up. So let jail clean you out. We can send you to the programs all we want to in the jail, but I believe we have to get somewhere once you get out of jail, something like a halfway house or a treatment center, whatever it may be, to where we can continue the programs, continue the sobriety until you fully are ready to go back out and be productive.
Okay. All right, well, Tom Kleinhelter, you can look into the audience, and this is your final thoughts, your opportunity to just make that plea that you would like to be the sheriff.
My final thought, or my plea to become sheriff, is if you need to learn any more about me and my career, please go to my Facebook page, Tom Kleinhelter for Dubois County Sheriff. I believe I have the desire, the knowledge, and the ability to manage the people of the Sheriff's Department, and I would just ask for your vote this November.
All right. Well, Tom, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Our guest has been Tom Kleinhelter, running for Dubois County Sheriff. Make sure that you get the opportunity. You go out and vote. It is your right to vote, but more than that, it is a privilege. Tom Kleinhelter, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for WJTS Inform. We're local people watching local people.